Let's explore in this video what are the different tests for SIBO. Hello, my name is Constantin. I have been a long-time SIBO and mold illness sufferer and had to heavily self-educate since 2020 to know what SIBO and mold illness are, how to test and how to heal from it, because these complex chronic illnesses are still widely unknown, even by many doctors. So, this video is not medical advice, but only information you should discuss with your doctor. Now, back to the different SIBO tests. The best way to test for SIBO would probably be to do a small bowel aspirate. But this is an invasive procedure. You have to do an endoscopy through the throat and upper digestive tract to take the aspirate in the small bowel. Most oftentimes, SIBO is tested with a breath test. For that, you have to do a preparation diet and, in the beginning of the test, swallow most oftentimes lactulose on an empty stomach. While the lactulose is passing through your digestive system and the small bowel, you will take breath samples every 20 to 30 minutes or so. They show if the lactulose has been fermented by unwanted SIBO bacteria in the small bowel. If the rise in fermentation gases, hydrogen, methane and hydrogen sulfide, happen within the first samples, it is assumed that the SIBO sits rather in the upper part of the small bowel, which is probably worse than if the rise in the fermentation gases happens in the lower part of the small bowel, meaning the gas rise shows up in later samples. Once the lactulose passes into the large intestine, the rise in fermentation gases is normal and expected. As you can see, the test results come as a graphic. Normally, these test results and the graphic are interpreted by a doctor or specialist of the laboratory that does the test. You can also find videos on YouTube that go into SIBO test interpretation, but it is a complex and huge topic, so I would rather rely on the interpretation by the laboratory, which is usually included in the test results. Most of the breath tests that are available only measure hydrogen and methane and do not measure hydrogen sulfide. However, if the hydrogen and methane breath test shows a flat line, it is often assumed that the person has hydrogen sulfide SIBO or ISO, intestinal sulfide overgrowth. This workaround works well for a good number of ISO cases, but it might miss some cases that don't show this typical flat line, notably where a person has both methane and hydrogen sulfide producing overgrowth. There is also a new test which measures all three gases, hydrogen, methane and hydrogen sulfide. This test is called TrioSmart Breath Test, but it seems that it is only available in Northern America and you cannot order it when you are in another country. If you can, you should probably get this TrioSmart Breath Test because it gives you a complete picture of what is going on and hence allows for better treatment decisions with your doctor. The gas levels on all SIBO breath tests also allow doctors to decide for how long you have to take the antibiotic or antimicrobial treatment. Do you have SIBO or suspect having it? Did you already do a SIBO test? Let us know in the comment section, where you can also ask questions, propose new topics and find some useful links. There is also the Foodmarble 2, a small electronic device that connects to your smartphone and which can measure hydrogen and methane levels in your breath. Its intended use is to track if gas levels rise after eating certain foods, allowing people with IBS and SIBO to avoid foods that worsen their problems. This is helpful because those trigger foods might be individually different from sufferer to sufferer. Some people use it also to replace SIBO breath tests, even if the manufacturer clearly says that this is not the intended use, and it might hence be questionable if the results are reliable and if you and your doctor should base medical decisions on that. I personally have done several SIBO breath tests and also own the Foodmarble 2, which is nice and handy, but at the end of each treatment I will redo a real SIBO breath test to confirm that SIBO is really gone. I go into more detail about the Foodmarble 2 in a different video, which is coming up in the playlist just after the next video. There is also another way to get at least an idea if you have SIBO, But this is not a reliable test. I actually knew I had SIBO before the results of my first breath test came in. On the morning of that day, I heated up some onions and garlic in some oil to make it a little more digestible and ate just a little bit of that on an empty stomach. As expected, about 15 to 30 minutes later, I had heavy bloating, so I knew that I had SIBO. But again, this is not a reliable test for SIBO. It just gives you an indication whether it is probable that you have SIBO, and in that case, you should do a real SIBO breath test. As a conclusion, in my opinion, you should do a SIBO breath test if you suspect having SIBO. If the breath test is positive, the measured gas levels allow your doctor to determine dose and length of treatment, which is not the case for the other tests. During treatment, it might be helpful to track your gas levels with the Foodmarble tool and discover which foods you should avoid. And I would also opt for a breath test at the end of each treatment to confirm that SIBO is really gone. Do you want to know how to find a lab for the SIBO breath test and learn more about the Foodmarble? Then watch this video in the red circle here on the right side. But first, please share this video on your Facebook, Twitter, and other social media. If you have any questions, please go to my website, scroll down and book a free coaching call by clicking on the orange button.